Hello, my name is Molly and I'll be your nurse today. What name do you like to go by?
Joe is fine.
Alright, well it's great to meet you, Joe. Tell me how you're feeling today.
I'm just really having a difficult time dealing with losing my father this last week.
Losing a parent can be incredibly difficult. How does it make you feel?
Really, I'm just devastated. I don't know how I can move on. He was my best friend and that's all I can really think about.
I understand. It can be extremely hard to lose a loved one, especially when you two are so close. But grieving is a perfectly normal process and there are healthy ways that I can help you cope. What have you done to try to cope with losing your father so far?
This week's just been a blur. All I've done is sleep.
Have you had any thoughts of harming yourself or others since he passed away?
No. I've never really been this way before. I don't know how I can ever possibly move on from it. I feel just alone and empty inside.
Well, it sounds like you're going through a very painful time. Perhaps you and I can talk some more and come up with ways to help you feel less lonely. And also maybe figure out some healthy coping skills for you to do. We can make a plan and set some goals that will help you cope and make you feel less lonely and empty. Would you be interested in that?
Yeah.
Tell me other ways that you don't feel like you have been yourself since he passed away.
I'm not sure. Everything I see reminds me of when I was walking around my house and all I saw were all the memories that we had.
That's normal. Keep in mind that everybody grieves differently, and there's no time frame to when you'll feel better. Having memories that trigger additional distress is also normal. Grief has several stages. Currently, I believe you're dealing with the preoccupation with the image of your father. I'd like to help you change your behavior and reorganize your life to move on. What I ultimately want to do is help you get back on a schedule and keep moving forward. Would you like that?
Yeah, I'd like to try to go back to work and get in our routine again.
Yeah, that'd be great. I can offer you ideas to help you do that. Another good resource may be some grief and loss support groups. Would you be interested in that?
Yeah, that actually sounds like a good idea. I think it'd be good to get around people with similar feelings.
Yes, it's beneficial to be around people who have similar feelings that can help you to explore additional ways to cope.
Do you think getting an antidepressant until I feel better is a good idea?
Typically, antidepressants are best with people with chronic depression. If we get you proper coping mechanisms and you can continue to improve, antidepressants shouldn't be needed. If you still feel this way further down the road, though, it may be something we can discuss. However, right now, I think it's best to go without it because it can do more harm than good in the long run for people who are dealing with grief and not depression. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds like a good plan.
Do you have any more questions?
No, not right now.
All right. Well, what goals do you have for this next week until I see you again?
I want to go back to work again and really just start talking to my wife about how I feel.
Well, those are great goals. What's worked for you in the past to have effective communication with your wife?
Getting away for the weekend, just having something different is usually a good thing. Maybe I can suggest that we take a little mini vacation. Something to get away from the funeral could be good for both of us.
For some people, change of scenery is a very positive way to improve. So you're saying that your first goal would be you want to spend more time with your wife by doing something out of the ordinary, and your second goal is to get back to work by the end of this week. Do those sound reasonable right now?
Yeah, those sound like good goals.
I'd also like you to maybe start keeping a journal for the next few weeks about how you feel, what makes you feel good, and what triggers the painful feelings. That way we can work on dealing with those feelings. Does keeping a journal interest you?
Yeah, I've never really been much of a writer, but I guess I could try doing something like that.
Well, great. I think we've got some good goals set in place for this next week. I'd like to see you back here next week sometime after you start work again and after you've spent time with your wife. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for opening up today, Joe. Just remember that grief is a normal process and the feelings you're feeling are completely natural. I'm going to go get the physician right now and he should be in shortly. I'm a student nurse named Molly. We're dealing with a 30-year-old male named Joe. He's struggling with grief and loss since his father died. He's not sure how to deal with the loss. He hasn't been to work since his father died and he's been in bed.
Does he have any history of mental illness?
No. Patient reports no past mental illness and no substance abuse. The patient feels lonely and doesn't know how to cope, so I'm recommending that he reconnects with his wife, and I'm encouraging him to communicate his feelings. The patient's interested in getting away with his spouse for the weekend for a change of scenery. The patient wants to get back to work by the end of this week, and I'm recommending that he starts a journal to process his feelings.